And we're live. Welcome, everyone. We have a real science podcast for you tonight with Tim Ventura, Julia Kamman, and the real verbs, Jason Verbelli. Welcome, my fellow, I guess, podcasters and science fans. And how are y'all?
Hey, thank you for having us. I was taking selfies with my computer. I got distracted.
There we go.
Oh,
Yeah.
looking good.
Yeah. Well, trust me, I don't have your guys' natural good looks, so I have to, use every opportunity I get. But
Aw.
so hey, let me, you know what? I got something to show you.
Yeah, let's start off
okay.
with
Hey, actually,
sharing.
I have a couple of things, but I'll do the other one later. But I want to show you this to start. So I found this online today. I saw an article. ABC News reports that the launch costs for Elon Musk's Starship could drop to $23 per pound. Right. So this is this traditional rocket technology. It's just big. It's efficient. It's reusable. At $23 per pound. This makes a personal trip to orbit something like $5,000, right? I mean, just in terms of the actual cost itself. When you get to
10,000.
those, well, 10,000? No, average.
Well, 23 if I was 200 pounds.
Depends on the weight.
Yeah, it depends on the weight. Let me see. Let's do our math. Okay, so 23
in the thousands, not the millions. That's the main point. It's almost affordable.
Okay, so yeah, so at $23, okay, so at $23 per pound, this makes a 200-pound person trip to orbit $4,600. That's before markup, whatever that is. At that kind of cost, that opens up space and it secures Elon Musk's legacy as the person who put humankind in space. And it also puts him on the fast track to Mars. And again, this is rockets. This isn't any kind of, breakthrough, innovative new propulsion system. This is just leveraging reusability, economies of scale and things that are known and achievable. So that is exciting. That's like Hollywood movie stuff, and it's based on real world technology that is here today. So I wanted to kind of start out with that.
A rocket for $4,000 or $5,000 cost? That's like the same as Hawaii from Canada, at least.
Yeah, it's comparable to first class airline tickets, which I don't think any of us can afford. But in theory, if we could afford them, then we'd be right there. So okay. So that was all I had for you.
Okay. No APEC promo.
The SEG, and Bernie, thank you for going live. So I had something I wanted to say to Jason. Jason was talking about critics of the SEG, and what people forget about the Searle effect generator is that and B-field Brown are the two big ones for anti-gravity. And the Searle effect generator is actually more anti-gravity than TD Brown, right? So even if it doesn't work, it has cultural importance and it needs to be addressed and it needs to be preserved and it needs to be recognized because it has influenced that entire community going back like, I don't know, when did you start doing that, Jason? The 60s?
Or 60.
So because I know there are lots of people out there who are like Searle haters, but even if they hate Searle, even if you're watching, even if your audience is watching right now and they're like, that John Searle guy, he was such a scam artist. But the point is that he shaped people's impressions of what it should be and what it should do. And he had there are two other things. Everybody who has attempted a replication has seen anomalous results, right? Every single person, every single replication has seen weird stuff. And then other things that Searle reported, like these devices running cold, people have seen those in other anomalous experiments. So if it's a hoax, there's a lot there that's kind of like,
I fully believe it is not a hoax. It is legitimate. And Jason, you're muted if you're trying to talk, but your own research and building, like you've reproduced a lot of the effects, correct? And
yes.
It's like superconductive as well, I believe.
That's only after a critical point, and we're still in the research and development phase to rebuild and validate John Searle's claims step by step in a professional environment. That superconductive overload is an end result after $3 million investment lump sum, hopefully. So that's what the end result is, and thereafter. But our goal is first you have to have your feet on the ground before you put your head in the clouds, and so that's our focus, is validating John Searle's claims in a lab and testing things out step by step, which then justifies the next step. And I wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't justification for each step. So this next step that we are on is a biggie. So that's my whole deal. Is
what's your timeline? Do you have a timeline in place for?
No, you can't put numbers in a timeline on things like research and development, because there's too many unknowns, and we don't have a proper budget for that. So it's not like, okay, you can do it in 6 months, 9 months, a year. Could be 10 years. Could be not even in my lifetime. If people want to contribute and actually get the project off the ground, pardon the pun, that's a different story. But you can't give timelines or generalities for something of this controversial nature and its magnitude. So.
Well, and you have a big task, because so like we were talking briefly about Isaiah Ritchie, right? And he is a purist, and I think that is the approach, because again, everybody who has tried to replicate this has cheated. That and the reason that they've cheated is because to actually build an SCG according to Searle's very detailed directions is really difficult. And there's lots of little stuff like the neodymium. You can't grind that. If I remember correctly, you have to chip that, right? You have to use like a chipping machine to get those. And so, right. But then there are other parts too, like, okay, so when Paul Murad was working with John Brandenburg, right, they called it the Morningstar Energy Box. That was basically an SEG. They wanted to do a pure form of it, but what they found was they weren't able to get the rollers magnetized. And so they ended up doing their magnetization differently, which caused problems for it, right? And Godin and Roshan, same thing. If I remember correctly, they drilled out the rotors and put magnets into them to magnetize it, which is not what you're supposed to do. So the actual Searle instructions, if I remember correctly, basically you're creating kind of a linear motor and you're embedding the magnetic track into the rollers, something like that.
Everybody has their own take on it, and they can run with their own ideas. So we have our own understanding at SEG Magnetics, and that's what we focus on. We had the direction of John Searle for many years until he passed away here in San Diego. So there's a lot of ideas. Everybody has their own take. We try to just isolate the variables and list them out one by one in the lab and machine shop, build everything that we need, because you can't subcontract these things. You can't order some of these things. Everything that we work with, we have to make custom.
Yeah.
And that takes time. And I'm the only person in the machine shop doing that work. And so Fernando's the only one doing the magnetization and electrical engineering aspect of that. So we're, he's like Dr. Frankenstein, and I'm like Igor, and everybody thinks that I'm the Dr. Frankenstein. No, I'm just creating the monster. So
I saw that video that Fernando did. Man, this is ancient history now, but this is like 10, 12 years ago. This was like he had like a little one ring roller, and even that was really well built. I remember looking at that video that he put up online. I was like, man, he did a really good job with it. Because again, these are really hard to build.
Yeah, it's very precise. It looks like just a bunch of rings, a copper ring and a magnet ring, and it's a lot more complex, because what we do is account for density. Anybody can just throw things together with a blueprint of length, width, and height, or diameter and thickness, but this has to account for another aspect and factor of density. So every magnet has to be the exact same size and weight, down to the milligram and the micron. That's what I do by hand, one by one.
Like reconstructing from the ground up. And with real science, what you said, especially of like identifying each of the different variables to recreate the original design. And with so many of these revolutionary inventions, ideas, and technologies, I find I'm dubbing it the Fleischmann's and Pons syndrome, where the mainstream will intentionally get one small little aspect incorrect to prove it wrong, and then it's like it'll get like just repeated over and over, or changed and hidden what's like the specifics are, like the key little minute factors that make the difference between something working and something being bunk.
Yeah, well, and Jason is doing the work. I mean, like I'm just a, I don't know, cheesy 2-bit internet pundit, and then Bernie's just an artist. So yeah, at least Julia has at least she has psychic abilities. Me and Bernie, we're screwed. So, but
Right.
Jason is actually doing the work. He's actually building these things, and that it's not easy. It is not easy, because I know people have built them, like the Paul Brown one that we mentioned earlier. Paul Brown built one in the 80s. He saw results. He documented it very well, So everybody who's gone the distance for it has seen stuff. So I think that should at least give the critics pause. It's one of those things.
Wait,
Everybody's
why does
building.
Hutchinson not like Searle?
Well, you'd have to ask John why he doesn't like Searle, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think they communicated much with each other, not that I know of.
Everybody's stuck in the past. And
Right.
what we do is look forward to see, okay, so what did this man say and what can we validate? If we can't get any footage, any pictures, we can't talk to the people who we worked with, everybody's dead. Okay, so what can we do? We can take his claims, and I can take what John Searle told me personally, what we have on film for years of him having conversations behind closed doors and private conversations, and on public, everything he's uploaded on the internet. So we take that information and we can test it and see if it works out. And everything that we have tested in the lab has worked out. It's crazy.
But the for me, this is the thing that excites me about right now is, okay, Jason, you're down in California, right? And then Julie's in California. Bernie is up in Canada. I'm kind of in the Seattle area, and we're talking and showing each other images and video in real time. And I mean, you can do that anywhere in the world. And so for our community, I mean, you remember, right? When you got into this, I mean, it was like, if you were lucky, they had an email address, and that was it. Nobody had photos. It was like finding information to work from was a nightmare. And now being able to be in your lab and put a camera on something for somebody halfway across the world and say, hey, what do you think of this? That
And
is like
documenting it all and recording it all and publicizing it all, for sure.
I think that's the big change.
One thing you have to be careful with is earlier, Bernie, you said these things prove this and that. No. Experiments and observations and all of these endeavors do not prove anything. Proof is math. I'm very technical when it comes to semantics and terminology. We provide evidence.
Evidence.
The scientific community looks at that under one specific framework and one specific scientific model or mathematical model, and they say this conflicts with my mathematical model and my interpretation, so therefore it must not be real and true because it can't happen under my model. But you can look at those same scenarios and prove it under a different mathematical model. That same scenario, the same data and observations can be reinterpreted to validate it or invalidate it, depends on how you look at it. But the majority of the scientific community has lost its way by confusing evidence versus proof. They think experiments provide proof. They do not provide evidence. You can interpret that with math and proofs. So that's something to look at. And that's something that I've tried to convey for quite a while now, is that we provide evidence of John Searle's claims, and people can look at it and interpret it however they want and have their own views on that. So we want to deal with what we have here and now, and show people the validations and the evidence.
Well said. One thing I got up and wanted to highlight, and to essentially highlighting exactly what you're saying and about different people's interpretations and models and all of that. Like this article right here, the first one that popped up when I Google searched Searle generator, and it's labeled as a 0-point generator, but that's clearly false because it's cooling the environment in an endothermic reaction. Thus, it's an open dynamic system and circuits, and taking energy from somewhere, not creating it out of nothing.
Yeah, and my thought on that is Searle was not a physicist, and even if he had been, physics was a heck of a lot different when he got into it. So, he was. I remember reading his descriptions of how he thought it was working, and he was talking about like ion flow over the outside and things like that. And I was like, yeah, I kind of see that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that if it's creating some kind of really anomalous effect that his explanation for it is why. But what he did do was outline, and I could see like in that medium story there, that's a really great photo. I think that's Fernando's SEG. And that's only a one ring, right? A true SEG, you have multiple rings and rollers.
You can. It's on how you design it. It's what output that you want to have ultimately. The amount of mass determines the amount of energy that it can harness and output. So if you want a 3-ringed device, that's acting as a 3-stage generator, so you can step up the power. But if you just want to charge a battery, you can just use the 1 ring, or you can scale up the mass of the 1 ring. So there's you have all these different options. It's just geometry, and whatever end result and application you are looking to power, or whatever the scenario is, you build it for that scenario.
Yeah, and again, I know it sounds cheesy to say it, but it has cultural value for anybody who has ever been into anti-gravity or gravity modification or anything like that. This is something that everyone in this community knows about. Doesn't mean everybody buys into it. It doesn't mean everybody loves it, but it's, you know what I mean? This is like, I don't know what you would call it. It's like a cultural icon.
Yeah, it's a solid column and foundation in the over unity anti-gravity devices and research.
Okay, yeah. So I got to touch on that, please.
Oh, the IGV.
Yeah. So I have my semantics again. There no over unity. Over unity applies to the concept of a closed system putting out more than what goes in. So you can only pour out as much water from a glass as you put in it first. You can only drain as much energy from a battery as you put in it first. But if you're standing outside during a rainstorm while pouring out the glass of water, then the surrounding environment can contribute more to that glass than what you initially put in. But at that point, it's an open system. But if you don't believe in rain and you don't know that the surrounding environment's contributing, then you make up nonsense about over unity. But if it's an open system receiving from the environment, then over unity doesn't apply, because now you have to account for the energy of the total surroundings. So there is no over unity. It's a misconception, because the energy must come from somewhere. So if a device is stealing the energy from around it, it is lowering the total amount of energy around it, which means the temperature will drop, because temperature is a measure of the total amount of surrounding energy. If you're converting that, the energy's got to come from somewhere, and the total temperature will drop. But then the sun will just supply that. The Earth's ambient energy will recharge that. And so you have this constant cycle. But you have to account for the under unity. You still have under unity, but just on a larger, massive scale. It's like a teacup from an ocean.
Good call. And
someone in the comments mentioned now it reminds them of the Ed's Lead, the transformer generator in his basement, and I think Brittany brought that up to you.
Now, remember, Leedskalnin built his castle before he built the electric generators, and the magnetic setup. So people think that he built the magnetic setup first and then levitated the stones in place. No, it's the other way around. He used hard work and leverage. And there's a book called Mr. Kant is Dead. And it was written by a man named Mr. Orville, who, as a child, he helped Ed Leedskalnin move his castle stone by stone and witnessed him and wrote his own book on how he did it.
Is that the one who said he saw him with a cone? It looks like an ice cream cone holding it.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
So you're saying it was leverage. That's what I tend to believe too. But I mean, that's kind of your...
Yeah, so he had like a jack, and then he lifted up one side of it and then propped it under, put the jack on the other side, did it 1 inch, then the other side 1 inch, and the other side over the course of time. And he just used hardware and then dug it out. And he has images and drawings and schematics of how he quarried at the bottom of it, how he dug them out, broke them off, lifted them, erected them, and all that. So there are correlations with like the magnetic flywheel being round, and there's magnetic polarities and stuff, but it's not the same, but there are similarities to it.
Yeah, well, and it's an anomaly too, right? And you differentiate that. It's kind of like, okay, he did this, we're not entirely sure how, yada yada yada. You differentiate that from the SCG, which is incredibly engineered, right? And that's the big difference. And for nobody who's ever seen an SCG book, and again, I am not an expert on this. Like I would,
nobody is.
I would be terrified to attempt one of these. But
one thing I want to now, can humans build something that does not exist in nature? Yes. Lasers, right? Laser beams do not exist in nature. Coherent light and collimated light does not exist in nature. You have incoherent light from the sun, light bulbs, monochromatic light. You put a red filter over the light bulb, you get red light, monochromatic, like sonoluminescence and bioluminescence, monochromatic light. Okay. Coherent light does not exist in nature, collimated light. So we can use the laws of nature to invent something that does not exist in nature, which then can produce anomalous effects. You have femto lasers creating such fast pulses, charging things that can't dissipate the energy fast enough. You get anomalous factors equal to the difference of what can't normally happen at normal rates. So take that into applying the aspect of the SEG. It's coherence as a rest state. So John Searle, the way I look at it is he developed something that was built in such a coherent manner that the rest of the surrounding environment tries to push towards it like an electron sink in an attempt to corrupt the system, because the natural universe wants to tend to disorder and entropy. Entropy is describes the disorder of a closed system. Neg entropy and syntropy describes the order of a closed system. But this operates as an open system, so the second law doesn't apply. But it does apply on a more massive scale, but still on a larger scale. But let's say you have something that is built coherently, and it can't be corrupted to a certain point because it's built that way. It's going to have a differential of coherence to incoherence and order to disorder, and you're going to get a flow in a particular direction until the system is corrupted. How long is that going to take? Don't know. Longer than my lifetime, longer than yours too, probably. So that's all we can say. Is it perpetual? No, nothing is perpetual. That's a concept, not a quantity or a length of time. But you can say something will last for a very long time. Okay. So the concept is that you build something so coherently that it will maintain that order once in operation. So like Newton's law, something will maintain a uniform motion until acted upon by an outside force, or it will stay at rest until acted upon by an outside force. Something will maintain its state of coherence until acted upon by something else to corrupt that incoherence. But the state of incoherence and the rate at which the normal universe in space can corrupt something is very, very slow. So the system being built in a state as it is, with solid state materials and copper down to the milligram and micron, and these magnetic materials magnetized in such a way as to generate an emergent subcarrier sine wave, you get a signal generated. All these factors of nature going together like a laser that does not exist in nature. And it can produce anomalous effects that don't exist in nature. And all of science is basing what we can do upon nature. But humans can build things that don't exist in nature, which will produce anomalous effects like gravitational anomalies and different things. So now we have books to talk about lasers, right?
Sorry.
Actually got this.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Autographed by this guy. Actually, this is the best book on lasers and optics that I found. This guy on YouTube, Styro Pyro, the master of lasers. He recommended this book. I got this book and I happened to get an autographed copy. Cool. So you want to learn about lasers, learn about this and coherence and the concept of coherence and order. So if you build something with order, it will reap that benefit of order. So when you look at a high pressure state in condensed matter physics, super high pressure, things are evenly spaced out from van der Waals forces. Everything tries to separate, but they can't because they're scrunched together. So you have things in an even crystalline grid and a lattice periodic ordering. And the more that you can mimic that while you're engineering something, the more that you will reap the energy as if it is in a high pressured state. So that's why nanotechnology is so conductive and so efficient, is because everything is evenly spaced on such a small scale. Everything's neatly stacked, right? Well, look how hydrogen is stacked in the sun, like metallic hydrogen. It's scrunched together so much it forms lattices and sheets like a chain link fence, like graphene. And the sun produces a lot of energy. So if you mimic that type of lattice structure, you're going to yield benefits and anomalies as if you're in a high pressure state. More order equals more flow equals more anomalies. John Searle developed a device that is extremely ordered, and science does not know how to explain it because something that ordered does not exist in nature, and it is yielding effects that do not readily exist.
One of the things that's interested me too is that, like, I've wondered if there's a comparison to what you might call macro scale quantum mechanical effects, right? And the most obvious of those, and this goes to another branch of anti-gravity, is the Poglavov device and superconductors, because superconductors have that macro scale quantum mechanical, right? You have it is a system, but it functions as a single large particle, at least in most ways. And the SCG, from looking at that, I keep wondering. I'm like, this to me, this looks like that's kind of what it's doing,
acting like a Bose-Einstein condensate.
Yeah.
What do you have in a laser and a Bose-Einstein condensate? You have all the photons acting as one, traveling in the same direction at the same rate, in the same wave, at the same time, same distance, equal everything, right? What do you have in the SEG? All of the parts are the same size, the same weight, the same distance apart, traveling the same velocity in the same direction, with the same wave imprinted on all of them, acting as one, like a tuning fork, mimicking a Bose-Einstein condensate. So you're going to yield anomalies that of a Bose-Einstein condensate. So the more order that you can consciously engineer is the more that you will reap in return.
Well, and then another thing that comes to mind, again, this for me, this is all of it's these parallels, right? The Graviflyer, what that Jared and Charlie have been playing with lately.
I don't like that.
You're not they have been, so the Graviflyer, you have a high voltage charge on a plate and you're spinning the plate, right? A little bit like a homopolar generator. And one of the things that intrigued me about the SEG and many other of these devices is you are physically moving the electrons through space, right? You've got current flow in it, but you also have a charge that is being rotated through space. And in a wire, and a lot of people don't know this, electrons, that I think they call it the drift velocity, right? They only move something like a foot per hour, if I remember right.
Electron drag.
So one of the other parts of this, and this could go to coherence, and this could go to these macro scale effects, is your particles, if there is some kind of a disturbance in time space that they're creating, you have large amounts of charge that you are physically moving, and that's much faster. That's going to be a much more intense effect than just pushing, current through a wire, because it's moving. It's not moving as fast.
Well, you got to be careful with those terms too, because if a charge is moving, now it's a current. Because if you give a charge which is normally static, it doesn't have a given direction. As soon as you give it direction, now it's an electric current. So it's like Gotta be.
Yeah. I didn't know you weren't the Gravifier for me. I have run
magician string not included.
I have run hot and cold on the Gravifier. I remember the first time I saw that. This is where I'm at with it. I saw I started seeing videos of that a few years ago, and I was like, immediately, I was like, this is a hoax. This is a hoax. But I'm like, I can't quite figure out how. Right? And the part that gets me is now Jared and Charlie have been working with Alexei on these Zoom calls, and he's making stuff lift off and fly around on the Zoom calls. Now it could be that he's just using string. I don't know, but the deeper they get into it, the more convinced they get. So
how do you feel about it, Jason? Why don't you like it? What are your feelings?
I think it's on magician's string. There has been, I've seen a couple contradictions there where it claims it's high voltage, but yet he touches it in the video, he'd be zapped.
That is true. Yeah.
So,
like a lot, like a bunch of times, or just once?
All it takes is once. You learn. So, but yeah, there's other things like just it could be camera trickery. I've seen a lot. All right. Okay, and I believe no one. All right, until I test things out for myself, and from what I have seen and tested, it's I'm just not into that particular project. Wish him well. Right. I hope it's good. Let's race the face then. So
we're like the bitter, hollow shells of people who used to believe. We're like,
hope
it's better than belief.
But you believe in what you're working on, and that until you see something else, it's like you worry that it could be detracted, and if it's not making sense, or you see something sketchy, like Jason just pointed out of the high voltage and him touching it, that who knows, right? But hopefully Charlie or one of them are able to actually get some results and reproduce it, and it's a real thing. And
do the tongue test. Doesn't count unless you do the tongue test.
The tongue test?
Yeah, like a 9-volt battery.
Oh, yeah. Well, Julia, what he was talking about with the high voltage, because I used to work with lifters, and the really early lifters, right? The way to build them, the way that Dan was doing it, you used a CRT monitor, and if you didn't disconnect it, and a lot of us didn't, the CRT, the actual tube, would store charge like a capacitor. Yeah, and so it only takes once. You learn pretty quick.
Yeah, and the reaction, what does that normally look like?
Well, it depends how much charge you get. I mean, like you can touch a Tesla coil. If at the right current, Tesla he would put one hand here and he'd have current flying off his body and his hair. So if it's a very high frequency, but when you're talking about the lifter and lower frequency stuff, if it's a small amount of charge, it stings. If you have any kind of capacitive source at all, then it becomes almost a little bit like a battery. And it depends. I mean, it could be like getting kicked by a horse or being punched by God. It really depends.
You see God.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got shocked. I didn't get shocked a ton, but you learn fast. I mean, and then I remember one of them was like I did get zapped once really good, where I literally just kind of came to. I remember coming to my senses, and my arm hurt, and I was like, why am I in my garage?
Oh, no.
And then I look over and there's the lifter and there's like a stray wire, and I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, it's kind of like, and I used to put disclaimers on the instructions, but that's part of learning, I guess.
Yeah. Well, try messing with 480 volts. That'll kill you.
Yeah. Well, 480, that's the current, right? You're talking about industrial.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's lethal. It's a lower voltage, but it's higher current.
Yikes.
So yeah, I wouldn't want to play with 480.
I've learned the hard way. That's how I learn. It's like I learned what not to do in life more so than what actually to do. I have all my fingers still. I got my face, sort of.
Yeah, I wonder how what would happen if there was no money or like patents, and how it would work if everything was open source, if there was no like credit, and where we would be in the free energy field and with many fields, if that wasn't the case, what
Well,
type of
look at
Like Star
Linux.
Trek.
Look
Oh,
at you know this for me. This is kind of one of my pet areas because I came up in the computer industry, and the open source movement turned that on its ear. Even though, like, you know, Microsoft and the Mac and all that, even though those are still proprietary, they were heavily influenced by the ideals of that. And the big one was sharing and openness. And you know, and it's like, okay, I'm willing to take a loss on this idea or this innovation because if I share it with you, we can get further than either one of us can by ourselves. And one of the things that I saw, and this goes to Searle, he had a lot of business partners and a lot of business deals that fell apart. And a lot of that came down to somebody along the way at some point getting greedy. And the problem is when you're dealing with innovations like this, they're so big, and the prospective profit potential is so big that people get greedy. And so, like, with this is one of the things that I try and do with APEC is, like, I try and keep it open. Like, let's share and work together. And you know what? If you're going to get rich, that's fine. But maybe I could help you. But I'm not going to, like, twist your arm for it, because I've seen what happens when that goes that direction. You know?
Yeah. Well, John Searle was not easy to work with. Okay. Everybody knew he was very eccentric and
like abusive, like verbally abusive.
Oh no, he was paranoid because everybody was abusive to him. So like, he
kind of the same thing happened to Hutchinson, essentially.
Yeah, so he was overly critical of everybody around him because he thought everybody was going to steal from him again and again, and whether they did or not, he believed they did. Right?
Yeah.
So and then he would turn on people, and then he would be like, I'm sorry. And then he would get back together and then like feel bad about turning on him and then go back again. And then he just like, yeah, this guy.
Did he provide anybody with like all of the, like, you know, the blueprints or the info, like the secret info, or never?
He divulged everything that he could to myself and Fernando Morris before he passed away. And
like days before he died, or like a year before?
For a couple of years, like on video and like conversations we were having with him, like all the time, and he just would not he just wouldn't open up totally until the very end, and then he started like divulging a lot more.
Yeah.
But
that seems, you guys see those things with like the CIA guys on their deathbed, or like of what they say. It seems to be towards the end they have to like get it off their chest.
You know, Julie, the way that I look at it is kind of like, and this comes from interviewing a lot of these innovators. It's a part of their soul, and that's why it's so hard to do business deals and sell things. It's like, you know, how much money can I give you for a part of your soul? And the problem is, maybe you need the money. Maybe you think, oh, I can use this money to get to the next step. But when it comes down to it, you can't sell a part of your soul. And that's what I've seen with a lot of these innovations is like these innovators, they just can't do it that way because it's so ingrained, right? It's like their existence is built into this idea that they've been working on. So,
well, John Searle was very consistent throughout his whole life. I was keeping a hawk, an eagle eye on this guy, like trying to catch him in contradictions and, you know, little things over the years. He was so consistent. Same, he never slipped up. So like he indeed believed everything that he said. So whether
was he like crying? Was he emotional? Was it hard for him at first? Like when he was, or like, was it like a volcano? It was hard to get, you know, and then it just erupted.
He would cry all the time.
Huh?
He would cry all the time.
Oh no, I meant like for him to finally share that info with you and Fernando. Was it like hard for him at first, and then and then it just came erupting? Like, was he more trusting or more revealing?
Like drip, and then the drips come together, and then you can collect a little more, and then you collect those drips into something more, and you collect those drips into something more, and then it's like, and so and then you have to translate that from there.
Yeah.
And so he gives you enough to work with, but We are the only effort and group who has gotten this far with this much effort and fruition, and actually validating his claims up to the point where we are currently. And the next step is an expensive step, and that's what we are aiming for, to produce these electron emissions from the device itself to power a damn light bulb like everybody wants to see. So I want to bring this to fruition and get the project what it needs. And now I'm the one actually building it. So
so it's about finding the right angel investor.
Yeah. Well, and there aren't many Searle. I mean, there used to be more, but there's, I mean, how many, Jason, how many people even know Searle anymore? Really? I mean, it used to be one of those things where there were a fair number of folks who would memorize.
They're
right?
dying out.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be the last people. I'm gonna be like the last apprentice of John Searle when Fernando passes. Whenever he was attacked. You know about that, right?
Mm-mm.
Man, yeah. Completely unrelated, not even intentional. We were at the lab. It was New Year's Eve a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, and some maniac in the parking lot was breaking into cars. And there's so we work in like a bunch in a building where there are units, and there's a bunch of businesses in each unit. So people like work on cars and transmissions. Other people work on, this stuff. So the people next to us, their like 16-year-old kid lived in the RV in the parking lot. And this maniac comes in, breaking into the cars, breaks into this kid's like motorhome at like 11 p.m. at night, and says, "You're the devil," and just starts stabbing the kid. Like,
that's crazy. That's
ruthlessly.
insane.
Yeah, it's insane, right? So this kid is screaming bloody murder for his life. Fernando's like sleeping in the office, and he's like, "What the hell is this screaming?" And he's like, "What the hell?" He goes outside, and this kid's like runs up to him, hides behind him, and this guy bum rushes Fernando, and then like starts stabbing him in the neck. Yeah, and then pummeling his head against the concrete and stuff. And then we're right up the street from a firehouse, and they came like within like minutes or seconds, because Fernando called the cops because he heard screaming outside, bloody murder. Come quick, put the phone down, and then went outside and got attacked. And then the police came and they subdued the guy. They arrested him, took him away. Now he's in a mental institution. He should get worse than that. So
our culture does not do a good job. We claim we do, but we do not do a good job preserving the ideas and the legacy of people that passed too. When you talked about these people dying out, and I'm sure that you have a big collection. I have a big collection of friends and mentors, right? Because we work in an area where a lot of these folks were older and we learn from them, and like I'm 48 now. One of the things that I'm struggling with is kind of like, it's like you look around and there's a couple of guys left, and it's like, oh shit, So I gotta carry.
Eugene Malov with the cold fusion.
Yeah.
He died. The story was that some random burglar broke in and then like killed him. It could be true. I believe that now. I couldn't have been because some random dude in the parking lot just ends up stabbing Fernando. Like everybody lived, the kid lived, everybody like they got stitched up. We're talking bad, man.
Well, yeah, and everybody talks about, the conspiracy this, conspiracy that. It doesn't take conspiracies. It's just old age for a lot of these folks.
Yeah, a lot of them, but sometimes just weird, crazy people, and other times it's a target. Like it really is some conspiracy targeting the people. But sometimes it's just
Stanley Meyer.
Stanley Meyer, Poison. All of these people, man. It's like there's something going on, but sometimes it's just a victim of circumstance. And then people can run with the story. If Fernando had died, I would have been tripping. Seriously, I would have been screwed up.
Well, and there was a I'm not even going to say who, but there was a young lady that everybody heard about her, and she took her own life. And this was 2 years ago, I think. And there are conspiracy stories. I get emails about that, and you know, I talked to her several
Conspiracies
times
about Mark McCandlish's death as well, even.
Yeah, and you know, I knew Mark. I didn't know him as well. I talked to one of his close friends, and they said yes. They said they said they saw that coming. So, you know, that he was now part of that. This goes. And this isn't just innovators, but this is older people in general, right? You know, a lot of them they're lonely, they're socially isolated, they have, you know, medical conditions that are getting progressively worse, right? And so that's kind of a silent epidemic in the first world nations. Is it's we don't like to talk about it, we don't like to think about it, but you know, if you do some reading, you'll find that there's a silent epidemic of older people who just decide to check out because they don't feel like they have enough. Basically, they don't feel connected enough, you know.
Yeah, they feel like they're abandoned. And that's John
Yeah,
Searle felt that way his whole life. That started for him as a kid.
Yeah.
Plus, it's like the remnants for me. It's like the remnants of not of parasites and the effect that has on like the mineral deficiencies and there's brain parasites and heavy metals. And this became a culture that doesn't cleanse, and the effects on health, and then the effect of your emotions and even memory. And so I really think that's a source for a lot of issues and problems, is not doing parasite cleanses. And then, you know, it'll make a huge difference as a society if we would do that.
Yeah,
But I think putting
get them worms out you.
well, I think putting what just as a society of sticking the elders in homes and leaving the of like, wait, are like families aren't taking care of the one, like there's been a huge disconnect in that in the ancient way where they honored them and they went to them for wisdom and they had this sense of respect and admiration and they stood tall. And when you see the fall of that, and you know, the fall of fathers and all of this stuff, and the disconnect between men and female, like men and women, you're seeing the remnants of that. Like how many, you know, people, you know, that didn't have a dad growing up, and the
Yeah.
effects of all those traumas. And even just hearing about John Searles' childhood, it's, you know, he was adopted and abused, and then, you know, of like not having,
Adopted multiple times and then brought back, adopted again.
Yeah, I mean, I've read a fair amount about this. A lot of this goes back to there's a lot of evolutionary theory that goes into this, but we're basically tribal creatures, you know, and then depending on who you talk to, our tribe kind of the way our brain supposedly taps out, it's around 100 people ish supposedly that we easily identify. That's kind of our close tribe, right? But the challenge is, you know, society keeps changing, and so instead of having like Native Americans, right, where you have children and adults and elderly people, and they all live together and they support each other and they help each other and they share, you know, um, and instead of that, we have this giant, massive worldwide network of people, but they're all physically isolated, right? It's like, you know, you can't reach out and touch someone. They're on the other side of a screen. So you know thousands of people, but you're not actually with them, and you're not with them all the time. So it's really different, you know?
This is why I think the most astounding technology for humans and where we're at consciously in our bodies was Royal Raymond Rife's technology, because of getting it down to a frequency and treating, you know, every what did he say, every disease lives in a frequency and dies in a frequency. It's just about determining what it is, assessing what it is, and knowing which frequency to hit it with. But where we would be as a society if, what was his name, Lawrence Fishbein, that started the FDA and went after Royal Raymond Rife, and then that's another person that was ostracized. And, you know, even the microscope that showed and proved the frequency was ridding the cancer that, oh yeah, and this is not medical advice, but that it was treating that, and they burnt it and destroyed it. And then how he kind of became an alcoholic and was ostracized and went down to Mexico, right?
In a non-medical advice sort of way.
Yeah. But like that, trying to recreate that tech as well.
For me, I'm more like and I'm not being negative on Rife. I'm more focused on the cultural aspect of it. You know, I think that's one of the big things, and like anxiety also, that and that's something that I see, and I think everyone struggles with that. I think all of us do. It's like we're
Well,
all
with anxiety, I love
different.
that when you really dive into the research, you see that it is a gut disorder. And so, and you look at like Monsanto and what they did with the glyphosate and how that's affected everybody's gut. And so the gut brain axis, no wonder so many people have anxiety and this depression thing. But it's like, I wish more people would dive into the research of treating the gut, not just going and taking an SSRI, like getting to the root of the issue, like it's in the gut. And your guts, most of these people have their gut is in dysbiosis. It's not symbiotic. And there's all these remnants because of what's been put in our food, the lack of nutrients, the added chemicals were being sprayed from above, the things that are in the water. And most people grow up never doing parasite cleanses, never doing liver flushes. So therefore there's this, and then you have all these dementia and Alzheimer's where a lot of it is heavy metals, like the mercury that fillings, the dental community and what they've gotten away with. These poor people that have like lost their minds, but it was due to the mercury fillings and even the dementia and Alzheimer's linked to that. And so how do you rid? And then there's these protocols that are rigorous to get rid of it. Like it is not too late. You could do heavy metal cleanses. There's groups and forms and there's these things that you could take and it's rigorous, but you can, but there's solutions.
Yes, fully agree.
In a non-medical advice sort of way.
Yes, exactly. Legal disclaimer.
Yeah, I know Bernie has one that's been running this whole time. No, Julie, I'm not teasing you. I'm not teasing you. I do. I've been doing intermittent fasting lately. That's and that.
Yeah,
and
me too. Food's too expensive.
Well, yeah, that's inflation fasting. Yeah, that's yeah,
ridiculous.
No, yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's
oh, there we go. Yeah,
Have you ever seen this one, Jason?
Yeah. What are you talking about? I'm the one who uploaded that from Clay Taylor. That's my boy.
Really?
Oh yeah.
All right then.
Yeah. So he, my friend Clay Taylor, he expanded upon Johann Goethe, and Johann Goethe lived 125 years after Isaac Newton and corrected Isaac Newton's mistakes and elaborated on the prism and color with light, darkness, and color. Every color in the Newtonian spectrum, Roy G. Biv, has a shadow and a shadow color. So the shadow of blue is yellow, the shadow of red is cyan, and the shadow of green is magenta.
Ooh.
And I had 3 colored lights, just 3 light bulbs, red light bulb, green, and blue. And if you turn on just the blue one and you put your hand in front of it, you can see that it casts a yellow shadow. And you can see these different effects of the color spectrum and the shadow spectrum. So Johann Goethe came up with the shadow spectrum and complements the Newtonian spectrum. And when you line them up, so you can take these harmonic frequencies like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, you double that, right? Every time you double the number, you go up 1 octave. Go up 1 octave within that note, right? And so if you triple the number 1, 3, 6, or 1, 3, 9, 27, you triple that number, it goes up 1 note. Do, re, mi. So you double it, goes up an octave, triple it, goes up a note. If you keep doubling that number like a C note, it'll go all the way up to the terahertz frequency range, and you'll find a specific number or hertz number and frequency for that, which then you can correlate with the wavelength in nanometers, and you can see that a C note correlates with a given color. A D note correlates with a given color, and when you line that up on the Newtonian and Goethe spectrum, you get these arrangements, and you can do that with a cathode ray tube or an old TV where you put a magnet up to the TV and it will do the colored images on it with the magnetic field, and those will distribute according to these color spectrums, and it's like the different angles of the magnets and the different strengths will correlate with.
I'd love for you to like choreograph like a sequence that would like help people get into theta brainwaves, like in a certain, like choreographing it to getting your mind, through light and sound.
That's the thing, is you want to correlate a given like Rife frequency. Rife, I think, used radio waves, not that you just wear headphones and listen to like audio tones like a tuning fork and think it's going to heal you. No, you apply that tuning fork resonance, but to radio waves. You apply that tuning fork resonance, but to pulsing magnetic fields. And you bump up those harmonic frequencies until you find that which correlates with octaves of that note, but in visible light. Like the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. When the aliens are flashing light with sound to communicate, they're probably using harmonic frequencies, okay? So you want to use those specific notes and specific colors, which will probably produce, beneficial effects for the body and plants and other things. Not medical advice, though. But let's say I'm thinking that it will not just be the light, but it will be the shadow of the light. So some people were worried about green light and how it's harmful or something. I couldn't get that. People say blue light is harmful, but
I've heard
if you use the shadow of those lights, maybe it's not as harmful.
Well, because like blue is UV and going into the ultraviolet, and that there's lots of stories and conspiracies with like blue lenses seeing cobalt glass showing auras, and that on the inverse you have on the other side of the visible light you have infrared, and that there's all the stories of the demons and stuff coming out of this hot red energy. So it's like in physics there's all this talk of red blue shift. Are there these other dimensions of, I guess, just how would I even word that? I guess life living in their plasma lights existence, energy existence in
all of that is talking about regular colors in the spectrum. But what about the shadow spectrum? The magenta, the cyan, and the yellow, and everything that is the shadow of the Newton's colors. So red, green, and blue, but you have shadows of the yellow, cyan, and magenta also. So that like you not only have the emission spectra.
Wait, what is purple shadow? What is purple shadow, Jason?
The shadow of green is magenta. And magenta isn't an actual wavelength like in the spectrum, but it's a shadow of the wavelength. So it's I'm thinking that if there are colors that might be healing and like if blue light hurts your eyes, then maybe the shadow of that might be beneficial, because if one side polarity hurts, the other side might heal. Disintegration, integration, restoration, hurt it, so it's like both sides of the scale, but people don't know that there's a shadow spectrum.
I think that's interesting. No, I think that is really interesting.
So
it makes a lot
of sense. There's shadows of gravity. I think gravity propagates like light, and that there are shadows.
Yeah, that's Lesage, right? That's the Lesage theory.
The Lesage theory was that there are particles that very small, smaller than what Max Planck would allow, and those particles are on the outside of objects, but not so much on the inside. And then through Casimir force, they are pushed together from the outside in. That's more of the Lesage push.
Okay, the push gravity. Yeah.
But this is, I'm thinking, as gravity propagates like light, it's an actual emission and a force which travels out like light and is re-emitted. It's absorbed by electrons and re-emitted by electrons. So if you have light and you have shadows of color and light, then you can do the same with gravity. That's my stance.
It just takes me back to DNA emitting biophotons and the fact that our bodies emit biophotons.
Yes.
That we can't see these weak particles of light, but we emit them.
Correct.
So how light could affect, we absorb lights and how that affects us. Combine that with light and sound frequency.
Yeah, that's
we
the whole
could
thing.
thrive.
Yeah,
There's an absorption and an emission. Absorption spectrum and an emission. Newton is the emission spectrum, and Goethe is the absorption spectrum.
Yeah, for the blue light, I haven't heard of any negative effects other than, right, and again, this is just pretty conventional. You know, it makes it harder to sleep, right? Because your brain thinks it's daylight.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. And red light therapy, I heard, is good. You know, they have that for like the hair and the skin and for different ailments. They claim that. And it must be laser light. Again, coherent light. You can't just shine a red light bulb on your skin and think it's good, or an LED light and think it's going to be beneficial. People sell snake oil devices with LED lights and red lights, and people think that they're healing themselves. They're not.
How could they check that? Is
I
there
tried,
like a
you know what?
test?
I tried it with the red LED and it did nothing. But then I remember thinking to myself, like, nobody's ever specified how much or how long. So I remember, you know, it's like, okay, I'm doing this, you know, 10 minutes per day, and nothing happened. And I was like, but what was I expecting to happen?
You need laser light, coherent light, which again does not exist in nature. But when you use it, it's an isolated wavelength. You get beneficial effects.
Is there a way people could check to verify? Like, is there like a little test you could do to verify that it?
You'd have to open up the actual unit, and then you'd have to have the electrical engineering knowledge to know what you're looking at versus an LED light versus a laser diode.
Yeah. I mean, in simple terms, you could look up what a laser diode looks like, and they usually they look a little bit different, you know. So you could check your device, but you know, I don't think anybody would lie about that either, to be honest.
Ah, you got to be man.
Well, okay, yeah, I'll take it back.
Products just to
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. So yeah, you got to keep on these people, keep them on their toes, make sure they're like selling good products and stuff, and they're not lying.
Yeah, with what we were just discussing, if we're putting in the right sound frequency into water, could you create light or color in water through that frequency?
You're talking. Yeah, I had a feeling that was kind of where you're going. I think that you're kind of thinking of something that's related, maybe in a different way, right? I mean, I don't think it would involve light, but standing
unless you have sonoluminescence, and that light would be dependent upon the emissions lines and the colors produced by hydrogen and oxygen, because you have the bubble which produces superheated steam from ultrasound, and just like that image right there, the ultrasound is creating a focal point in the middle, and it's creating a bubble of superheated steam, and then that superheated steam collapses on itself, and it does so fast, like 30,000 times a second, 30,000 hertz. It will generate light and emit photons, and those photons will correlate with the emissions of the hydrogen and oxygen and the vapor in the bubble.
So this Bernie, this should provide some new artistic ideas too.
Oh,
and I'm not saying that tongue in cheek. I'm like, that could, you do art, you do all sorts of graphics, right? This could give you ideas for colors and schemes and layouts, and
Well, just the way certain symbols too, like can charge things, you know, just having that on you.
That's right. But it has to make sure to be, if you have just something passive, meaning there's no power flowing through it, like just a magnet sitting on you, or just something, it's probably not going to work as well as something that's actually has an electric current going through it, or generating electrostatic charge, or pulses of light. Has to be actually doing something.
Just not too much electrostatic charge. Otherwise, you'll be standing there coming to your senses while you're
well, that's electric current. You turn that charge into a current. That's not so good.
Yeah.
The charge itself is okay. Just don't make
I just want everybody to create like Royal Raymond Rife frequency device, and ways to structure the filter and structure the water.
But even going to a higher level than that, I mean, again, without any kind of real science or alternative science, I want to go back to the anxiety thing. I think general anxiety from the pace of modern society is probably the biggest, most damaging thing. everybody that I know is struggling with anxiety. Everybody is struggling with it.
Life is one giant panic attack, buddy.
Yeah, it sucks, and like,
especially when you listen to the mainstream narrative.
Okay, number one, what can help you immediately is like, I call it herbal Xanax, but ashwagandha, and then you get, or holy basil, and that literally, like, it balances your adrenals, and it literally is so soothing, and like will stop you from having panic attacks. It helps like regulate and make you feel calm and soothing. And so, but literally it's a gut thing. And I get really passionate and heated about it because I see so many people, and I've helped so many people get down to the root of their anxiety and depression. And it had to do with parasite cleanses and what that does to your serotonin level, because the parasites, their drug of choice, what they're getting high on is your serotonin in your gut. And so what they do is they're taking all of your serotonin. Your serotonin is your happiness hormone. Like so it's stealing your happiness from inside you. And then you're left feeling what? Like, and so the fact that it's in there partying on your dime, punking you, jacking your happiness, and people, and so I'll be like, look, like this is the root of it. What's going on? And nobody wants to do it. And it's like, dude, you're being robbed from the inside. Like, get rid of them, evict them, get them out of there. Like, that's why you're bummed.
I have a teenage child. I'm like, oh my God. Like, how big are these parasites? Are they about this tall?
Oh, we're all loaded with them, but like there's some that are just, you don't even want to know, but
because when you describe, it's like, okay, it's robbing you from happiness from the inside. And, and I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah.
You're like, wait, I got a teenage parasite.
Yes. I think it's getting ready to dye its hair black. And no, I'm just teasing.
I got to call my mom tomorrow and apologize.
Yeah. Oh, I've done that. Yeah. Like apologize for, Mom, I'm sorry about the first 30 something years.
Well, I'm still sorry, Mom. Yeah.
So
we try.
Julia, I like, more seriously though, like, okay, what would differentiate a parasite cleanse from a normal just health cleanse?
Well, parasite, okay, the thing is it gets a little nasty, okay? Because what happens is getting rid of the adults is one thing, but they know you're about to kill them. They know they're going to die, so they send out this fluid that tells their a signal saying "Mayday, Mayday, multiply, multiply," and they lay a bunch of eggs, and then they know that they know that they're being wiped out, but they also are so creative and they morph, and they have this biofilm that protects them. They're incredibly advanced. Like I was on a panel at the alien event, and you should have seen the looks on these faces of these people on the panel with me, because when it came time for me to talk, and what I said was, look, you guys, the alien invasion is happening. It's already happening. It's happening now. And they're like, what? And I said, yes, inside you. If I showed you parasites on a microscope on the screen, you would look alien-like to you. And they're taking your happiness. Like, that's what they like the most. And then they send out this fluid to your brain. And this is what gets me about addiction too. There's these poor people that they think that it's them, that they're relapsing, or that they're continuing to drink alcohol, or that they can't stop certain drugs or certain sugars or certain carbs. They love sugar, and they will send out a fluid to your mind, to your brain, that's demanding, I want this, and I want this now. And your brain doesn't know the difference. So people think it's them, that they can't get self-control, that they can't not drink, or they need to have ice cream, when it's a signal that's tricking the brain that the parasite is releasing.
So what is the, I mean, ultimately at some point you have to do a cleanse. What is because I know there are a lot of them out there, right? And there's some weird ones too. Like there's a honey vinegar something cleanse. I've heard about those.
Cayenne pepper and all that.
Yeah.
The last time I did a parasite cleanse, I ended up in the toilet. What?
And that's another thing too. Well, like
cutting sugar out is like one of the main
yes,
things you can do, though. Correct? Yeah.
absolutely. And for starting like beginners, I recommend Dr. Hulda Clark's like system because it's simple. It's a great intro. It's like a good, you get the green black walnut tincture. You have the wormwood. You have, you have the garlic, and you take that. And a thing to keep in mind too is every time I'll do a parasite cleanse every every 6 months. And each time I dread it, I don't know why. And then I'll do it and I'll think like the worst things, like, oh God, this is going to be terrible. And then literally it's like the instant clarity. I get energy, I'm focused. And then it's like a high because it's like you begin when you start cleansing and getting down to the root of that, you start tapping into an energy field that's beyond you. You start to get assistance. I don't know how else to describe that. You're working with something bigger than you. And there's a reason why the Essenes, Jesus used to roll with the Essenes, and they were all about cleansing and purifying. And there's a reason you start to work with something else that helps you. And then you tap into that. But the clarity, the focus, it's amazing how you feel. And each time by day 2, I'm always like, why do I do that to myself? Why do I put myself through the dread? It's going to be horrible, blah, blah, blah. But it's really like profound. So yeah, I recommend to start out with like, I did a video with Brittany. It's on Recent Tartarians of like all this parasite breakdown. But I'm telling you, you want results. You want to remote view. You want psychic clarity. You want the powers everybody wants. I'm telling you, you get it through cleansing. You get it through this type of cleansing because you guys were so inundated in it. And they started taking this out in the medical field in the 70s of saying that parasites was a third world, thing, and that they don't need to focus on it. And then you see the rapid decline from that as well. I mean, we do it to our dogs, and everybody kind of, it was a forgotten practice that we need to thrive.
Yeah, right on. That's right. Are you familiar with this guy Prophet Yahweh who like tried contacting UFOs and stuff? You ever seen that guy?
I think I've heard that name.
Wow,
I think I've heard that name.
Yeah, okay. He's been on the news for like years, for like the last 10, 15 years. He's just like African-American gentleman. He's an older guy now. This guy, he's been on the news. He claims, right, he could contact UFOs by meditating, and he learned it from reading the Old Testament. And he's done it all. He's done it on the news. All right, it's crazy. And he says you can really only do it if you clean your colon and you have a parasite cleanse. And you got what in the world?
I've heard that a lot.
This guy, and like I thought it was so weird. I subscribed to this dude's Yahoo group or whatever. Like he had this group for like 10 years. I just get his emails every once in a while. Like, what's this dude up now? What's this guy up to? It's like he'd either be like going out summoning UFOs or like doing the colon cleanse. And this guy would have video after video talk about the importance of getting out of your.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just going to video with the colon cleanse.
No,
no.
No, God, no. He was like,
please no.
The importance of it, as we are here, but no demonstrations, please.
Yeah.
But the thing is just weird. Like he would, and he would have examples. Some guy on the news came out and was like, look up his name, Prophet Yahweh. Like, dude calls himself. Come on, bro. Like if you want to be taken seriously, like, but he does this thing, and it's weird. I can't explain it.
I wonder what he recommends to cleanse.
Yeah, look him up. He'll tell you. Hopefully he's still around. I'm sure he is.
It's weird. You stop and think about it. It's like the prophet of Jesus who sees UFOs. And it's like, what's the secret to that? Colon cleansing.
Honestly, the people that are out preaching on anything, and if they're speaking about cleansing, I listen to what they'd have to say. It's very interesting to me of the people that are making all this money and that they know, but they'll gatekeep the information. It's like, come on, man. We need as many people to know about this cleansing as possible.
I'm not a yoga person. I've done yoga. Who knows? Maybe someday I will be. But I just, for me, I had a hard time getting into it. But my ex-wife Danielle, right? She struggled with severe anxiety, and the cure for her was hot yoga. A friend
Ooh,
introduced her to it.
Bikram.
Yeah, and what's the weird thing was, so her, and then I have another friend who hurt his back in a motorcycle accident. It got worse and worse and worse and worse, and I don't remember how he got into it, but he got into yoga, and he said it saved his life. He's like, he's like, I'm completely cured. He's like, I could barely walk a year ago, and now I'm completely cured. So I want to put that out there, that like, again, I'm not a yoga person, but
Hot yoga is amazing. It's shredded. Actually, a friend of mine, he used to be the captain of the LA Kings. His name is Dustin Brown. He told me that Bikram yoga was the hardest thing he's ever done.
Yeah,
like, but he's like harder than any, Olympic, like any game of all the training and the crazy stuff he's done for workouts and games. And he was like, he said it was so hard. But you go in there, and it is. At first, it's, it feels like torture, but then you break past the brink, because you guys, you're sweating. It has to be in a certain temperature or higher, and it's a bunch of people in there, and it's rigorous, but you feel amazing. I mean, you're really tapping into something else by pushing your body to that brink.
And there's a reason why, like, all the yogi masters are yoga, and all of the like different ancient societies and spiritual groups throughout the Orient that are still around today. Yoga is a major part of their practices, of their mystery schools, and the energy,
the discipline,
aligning the energy within you. I guess, like the chi, right? I guess some of us call it organ over here, but your life force, whatever it is. But that yoga is actually documented. The main yoga positions, they're finding it in the Indus Valley, like 8,000, 9,000-year-old ruins, where the first things are carved are these yogic positions.
Yeah, it's a religion. It's I forgot that. I'd forgotten that. It's going back. It was one of the sacred religions, if I remember right, wasn't it? They had a few, and that was one of the sacred religions or something.
But if you notice, a lot of these practices that takes you beyond like time and space, and can really, it's things that require a lot of discipline, like withholding your chi, like your sexual energy, and holding on to that, and being disciplined with, withholding from certain substances, and cleansing, the discipline in that. Everything takes this regular effort, and that's not always easy. And so, but realizing of the importance of like, these things are kind of gatekeeped. Like, we got to do some work. Like, there's no hacking into it. Like, we got to work at this regularly. Like,
working out is not always fun. It's hard work. That's why it's working out, and it does you a lot of benefit when you.
Well, I think it's like there's a reason why you call exorcising your demons, like an exorcism, and the fact that our bones are piezoelectric. And so we think, for there's some people that are misled thinking like, oh, I'm going to be exhausted after I work out. It's like, no, dude, it charges you. It's our bones are piezoelectric. It's literally giving you energy. So like high intensity workout, or like, creating that friction with weights. Weight training, especially after 40, helps out big time. And then with the testosterone levels and the hormonally with everything.
Yeah, and again, since we're not doing medical advice, one of the things that I've learned, not from personal experience, this would be from other people's experience, but testosterone levels in men start to drop at 25, and so. Oh yeah. No,
Not me.
It is worth going. It is worth going to your doctor to have those tested. No, I mean, I'm not me personally. I'm super manly, but if I was less manly, then
yes,
yeah. And then they give you a gel that you have to smear on yourself every morning. And
what the hell?
It's that, or it's either that or a shot. He's like, do you want to come in every Friday for a shot? I'm like, I'll do the gel. But it's pretty normal.
Try the shot.
Try the
Right?
shot.
Yay!
My friend's getting the testosterone shots, huh?
The only medical advice we could give: go to your doctors and get
go to your doctor.
bugs and shots. Hooray! Whatever they tell you.
Prescribe it. But what I will tell you is, I
Good
know
point, Bernie.
it's the thing that men don't like to admit. But so I went into my doctor, and somebody had told me, a buddy told me about it, who's I went to high school with, and he was like, Tim, you should get your testosterone checked. And I'm like, no way, that would never be the problem. And I went and checked, and the doctor was like, yeah, you're kind of low, but that's normal for your age. And so,
excuse me, I'd be all insulted.
Yeah. Well, it happens, it's just normal. But and then people react differently to it, and some people it's like night and day. I don't know. For me, it was kind of like, okay, I feel a little bit more energy, but everybody's a little bit different to it.
That's what I'm going to start bringing up about the parasite points. This, like, especially when I'm talking to men, is because like it will throw off your hormones. So it's like, hey man, you don't want your levels being thrown off by a parasite, right? Like, probably want to get.
I honestly, like, women have menopause in their late 40s, 50s, right around that era, that age, and so it's not, for men to have similar issues. I mean, it's just getting older, right? Not male menopause.
Menopause is different though.
But it's a change. No, it's a change in hormones.
Yeah, it's definitely changed. Every 7 years too, the body changes as well. But
yeah,
but it accelerates at an older age. And
I just feel like we're not supposed to be aging like this at all. I feel like the telomere shortening and all that. Like, I feel like these bodies can go a lot further than
like Blade Runner were like programmed to fail too early. This is horrible.
Yeah, there's a lot. Well, medical science is moving forward so rapidly.
Biotech.
We'll live to be like 200 years old in the next probably 50 years.
In this lifetime.
Well, so this is an area actually. I've been into life extension for a while. I would suggest, if you want to like really get into it, and in fact, I could put a link there.
Have you tried stem cells?
No, that's not. But an area that's really interesting is the work that Dr. David Sinclair is doing. If you've heard of him, he's really big. He has he
Is he the one that talks about biohacking with like your DNA and all that?
Maybe.
Stay away from CRISPR.
Well, I don't think you can get that yourself, anyways.
You can if you have enough money. You can inject amino acids and supplement for different.
From experimental.
So some of the I've read a bunch of his books. What he's talked about for life extension, what are some of the things? So one of them was, like, you've heard about the Wim Hof method, right? What Sinclair
cold plunge
basically, and he was saying that one of the reasons that works is when you make the body uncomfortable like that, it tells it to start repairing itself. And so he was saying things like that. Another thing that's giant is exercise, right? You have to find, and so none of this is magic stuff. And then another one is eat healthy and eat less. I mean, it's stuff that we already know, right? It's just
I like to eat like a warrior after battle. I do. I like to train hard, and then I want to eat like a warrior.
Look at that. Look at that. She leans into it too. It's like a little.
I'm serious. You should go out to eat with me sometime. It's pretty impressive. I mean, I always eat more than everyone else. Yeah, it's a thing. I'm proud of it though. Like, I'm not ashamed ever. I would never make myself throw up either. Like, I have such a deep love for food.
Pay for that meal. You better keep that in your stomach. What are you doing? What are you talking about?
Well, it depends on a lot of different factors, right? It depends on a lot of different factors. So, and at some point, people's metabolisms do slow down a little bit,
I can't wait for that day. Man.
I'm going for the exact opposite. Not health advice. I'm guinea pigging myself. But so far, I can testify that I never got COVID. I never got a vax. I was exposed to it over like 50 times. My parents both got it. One was vaxxed, one wasn't. And I haven't really been sick in the 8 years that I've been drinking my colloidal waters. Whether my current mixture is a mixture of copper, zinc, gold, and silver together. And then you got the monoatomic white stuff at the bottom, but you never drink that. It's just the colloidal water off the top that it dissolves into. I don't recommend anybody drinking it whatsoever. It's not health advice, because if you get it wrong and it's oxidized like this, you will instantly start getting heavy metal poisoning and kill yourself.
There you go.
But
Thank you.
I'm not blue, and I've been doing it for 8 years.
No
Okay,
Smurf.
one thing I've been doing is my ex-wife owned a Montessori school, and it was in home, right? So we had kids coming in all the time, and they're wonderful kids, but the problem is kids bring colds, and so for years it was like 2 or 3 times a year I would get horribly sick, right? It's like every crud that's going around town comes right in the front door. And I don't remember who it was, but somebody said you need to take more vitamin D3. And I take a lot. I take way more. I'm taking like 5,000 units a day. Some people take 10,000. So, but like I go get the Costco pills. They have it at Costco. It's like 20
1,000
bucks.
milligrams or whatever.
I take like the 5,000. It's like one tablet. In fact, I can go get the bottle if you want.
Ooh, I have a huge recommendation for it. Not only improves your immune system, but it has wait, this is not medical advice. I hate that I even have to say this, because there's studies that could back this up. So it's a supplement of, it's called AHCC, and it's an alpha glucan, and it's produced from shiitake. And there's been all this research that has reversed women's HPV cancer result. You got to read about it. It's astounding. But what it does for your immune system, it's very expensive. It's very expensive, but you do not get sick on it. But it's also had astounding results with my friend had herpes, that he had herpes, and I had told him about it because something intuitively was telling me to tell him, because I had read all the research about the AHCCs, that doctor in Texas that has reversed so many of the cancers, HPV cancers, and, saved these women's lives. So something kept telling me recommend it could probably fix that. And so he was like, I've tried everything, Julia. And he was so depressed over it. And, anyway, so he tried it, and it took, I forget how long it took, but it was less than a year, and it got rid of it for him. And I was like, no way. So but I took it for my immune system, and I never got sick. I just couldn't afford it anymore. But it was amazing. And that information is very helpful, because there's so many people who have sisters and moms and HPV. There's all these strains. Maybe there's 17 or 19 strains. I forget how many strains of HPV is out there, but it's a lot. And the fact that it can reverse and have those kinds of results, knowing that information and being able to tell them about it, is a huge solution.
That's my non-medical advice. Vitamin D3 from Costco. I take, this is just me.
5,000.
5,000, yeah. And I take 2 of these a day, so that's 10,000 units. But
I need your camera, Tim, because I keep going off camera because it doesn't follow me.
Okay, so this, if you want to see this is the because I have a Mac. It's that center stage thing. So this is when it's turned off.
Wait, you're just using your laptop? What camera are you using?
Well, I have a desktop, but
yeah, so do I. But what camera is that?
It's the built-in one. It's just the built-in
camera.
I
have a built-in one.
I have a built-in one. I just got this MacBook Pro.
If you go up to
help your boy.
Actually, yeah, if you go up to, let me see, since you're recording, you should have a little green camera up on the top right bar, right? You have a little green camera?
Yeah.
If you click on that, it should pop open a menu.
Yeah.
Center stage.
I don't see that.
I have portrait, studio light, reactions, mic mode.
Okay, maybe your monitor might not support it. Portrait is this, where it blurs the background. So and then center stage is because I have a desktop
following you around,
yeah, what they do, it's kind of a hack. It doesn't actually follow you around. They just take a bigger picture.
Focuses in. Oh,
What year Mac do you have?
This one is the monitor's I think a year and a half, 2 years old.
Oh,
so
yeah, I have a 2015. Never mind.
Okay. Yeah,
Upgrade.
they
I'm gonna look up if there's a way I can get the center stage on a MacBook Pro.
My stupid Logitech won't even refocus on me after I shared something.
Logitech, good Lord, man.
I went Mac in 2015 because I got tired of fighting with Windows. That's just me.
Yeah, you don't want to support Bill Gates. What?
I just got tired of fighting with it. Yeah, I'm a computer guy, so I always maintained mine. The Mac story was my mother. So my mother has PCs, right? And she buys a new PC every 2 years because she likes to download things that people email her, even against my advice.
Aww,
She's
adorable.
It's only adorable until she calls you to fix it. and then my ex-wife, I gave her a really fast laptop, right? I was like, okay, here's your Christmas present, really fast. So she brings it to me like a year later, and she's like, it won't load. And I'm like, well, that can't be right. And what it was she had never defragged the drive, she'd never run this, she'd never run that, she'd never done any of the maintenance stuff that you're supposed to do. This was a few years back, so Windows is a little better now, but still. And I just remember looking at it and I'm like, you know what, I don't have the energy for this crap. So I went Mac, and I'm like, look, if you want a new laptop, I'll get you a Mac. So
she's in the Mac world now?
She's in the Mac world. Yeah,
that's right. Mac life.
Did she take a lot of pictures on her camera? Does she have an iPhone? Because that'll make the process.
Oh yeah.
What? Yes. Wait, yes. What? She takes a lot of pictures.
Yeah. Well, this was before that, but I know what you're talking about, Julia, because it'll sync those.
Yeah, that is a beauty. I could see, that it makes life so much easier.
Sorry, I'm trying to show the glimmering sparkles on some of the copper here, but it's
it almost
not
looks
really
like a fish
picking it
tank.
up. Right?
I was gonna say, yeah.
Dude, I made a meme earlier about I don't know why it was fascinating to me so much. It was about the largest copper mine in Chile. It's a really good looking meme.
John Boy Cat said, "I love this channel." It won't let me put it up. Yeah, Bernie grows on you, doesn't he? He does. Bernie grows on you. It's what it is. It's Bernie's mellowness.
Like a tumor.
No, yeah. Bernie's like the king of mellow. He's
Canadian stoner at his finest, right?
No, but he brings everyone together too. So he's like a hub, and it's like that's what we need. There's so many people that cause division, or things being divided, where it's like he unifies a lot of different types of people. Because I love these science people really, and these inventors really vibe with me, and I'm more of the psychic, intuitive type. I'll see things that are very advanced and not always understand it, but that bridging of those worlds, I mean, that is.
Well, you're an honorary scientist. There you go.
So they have a saying in Asia that it's not about this, but it applies. They say ghost knows ghost, and it's because my ex-wife was Thai, and she used to say ghost knows ghost, and
namaste.
It's what you're talking about is our community, and you just know, and you connect, and there are things that are, you meet people with eccentricities. So I have a friend in New York City. I'm not gonna give any info so people know who she is. I don't know why. I know that she will call me at 2 a.m. and just talk for hours. And she only does it every month or two. She'll stress out and she'll just decide to unload. And I'm not the only person that she calls like that. There are a couple others that I know that know her, and they're like, yeah, she's done that. I'm like, it's just like her thing, right? It's just like our community has just different eccentricities, and it's and so then it's just about tolerance, right? It's just our tribe, and everybody has different, your Linux
That's
computer.
Exactly it, Tim. It's tolerance of ideas and being open to seeing what others are working on, and then experiencing the results of the evidence of it.
Yeah, I don't you don't necessarily have to agree, but I just want you to understand. That's it.
Exactly. Have a discussion.
I'm I'm seriously big on that. Like, you know, because I've seen so much online. You guys have seen this too, right? You see trolls. They're like, that's not right. That's not right. You know, it's like the hollowed halls of science. You know, they plant their flag. They're like, I am right.
They
you
tried
know?
to. They
And
tried to.
anyone who is not me is not right. And it's just like, man, you know, it's exhausting, right? It's like, who has the
No.
energy for that?
Oh man, it energizes me. Yeah. Trolling.
Only
love
in
that.
a good way, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, what I was trying to illustrate there earlier and show was copper in pink state, and there was also silver in this pink state, and it's what I've reproduced, which I believe is from Sir Isaac Newton's 7 color states of transmutational metals, which he calls the pink crystalline state. And he states that that is when a metal is able to be transmutated from one metal into another, and that I've been able to reproduce and get gold, silver, copper, zinc, as well as iron all into these pure pink states, and that they actually have crystals on them and they glisten. And that's what I was trying to show there, but the camera wasn't picking it up very well.
Yeah, like a whole like elemental buffet.
I like your art too, Bernie. I also like your art. I think
yeah.
I genuinely like your art, man.
Illuminati confirmed.
My mom got me that for Christmas, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
Illuminati confirmed, Mom.
Yeah.
But who can't like Tesla and Gangster Einstein?
What? He wasn't a
I guess-
gangster.
Wait, Jason, say that thing that what you said about Tesla never said 369.
Yeah, I'm gonna hurt people's feelings again.
Yeah, say it. I'm always gonna make you say it.
About 369. He never said anything about 369. It's an internet myth. I've gone through his Colorado Springs notes. I've gone through his interviews and all publicly available material. The quote does not exist.
Yeah.
The energy frequency vibration exists.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you, Jason.
What?
Just showing Gangster Einstein on a $100 bill with some tats.
That's
Tatted-
awesome.
Tatted Einstein.
That's right.
And then Tower of Tesla. And then
You made all those, Bernie?
those ones. I only what's the word looking for? Commissioned. I got a couple of artists that I know to paint them up for me, and they're actually both of them are a compilation of a couple different artists worked together on them.
Good job, man. I couldn't do that. Not even close.
Yeah, I'm not nearly as good as an artist. Well, the majority of the art that I have is actually stuff I've had commissioned, not that I've painted myself.
So,
But I
take that credit. Steal it.
you can't do
I
that.
wouldn't feel
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Don't torment yourself too. Everybody has their own thing.
Hey,
and
just remember that Beethoven crumpled up his own symphony and tossed it in the trash. Beethoven hated his own work. That's all I'm saying.
But wasn't he deaf? He was deaf, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I can't hear anything. This sucks.
Here anyway. Yeah. So if Beethoven could put out good works, then maybe we can too.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're all artists in our own ways. Sure.
I like that. Because I feel like people don't, like, they're not used to doing the masterpiece that's in their heart. Like, they're not used to pursuing that. There's so many things that have taught us, like, you can't do that or you're not good enough. And that's what's so dangerous about these trolls and all those people that are too critical and too, thinking that way, because they get everybody believing, no, don't do it. You'll be ridiculed if you do. And how many people passed away that never had that chance, I don't
know. Some people, I've gotten so used to it. It's like entertaining to me now because I know the psychology of it. It's so predictable. It's like Neo in the Matrix. You just know what's coming. At the same lines and the same, there's only so many tactics trolls have and they use, and you can see them.
That's a good point. Yeah,
so
but Jason,
once you gain a sense of their methodology, then it's just like entertaining.
I mean, because the areas that you work in, you've met a lot of them, and you've developed a lot of those pushbacks.
You had
right?
rigorous training, Jason. I wish, like that ought to toughen anyone up. Like
I tend to self-deprecate in the mirror every morning more so than any troll could possibly try to.
But I mean,
ain't going down, folks.
I genuinely, I think, especially in our community, it's like, I think that we have to lift each other up. I absolutely think that we have to, and like, that's something, I'm naturally sarcastic and all that, but I've really been trying, especially over the last couple of years, like, build people up, see the best in people, right? And what I'm finding is, like, the more that I do that, the more I start to change, but it also, other people start to change too, right? Like, when people believe in you, you'll do better, So,
Absolutely.
being enthusiastic and encouraging and complimentary, like, oh my gosh, that's astounding. And that's what Jason and I talked about one night, of like how I'll do that with people a lot, and he does the same thing. Or like, people that do that, a lot of people will think like they want to sleep with me, because it's like we're so deprived for that energy, that when somebody shows up and they're like complimenting you and they're trying to understand you and they're encouraging you, they're like, you want to sleep with me, you must be in love with me, or you must be my soulmate because you're seeing me and feeling me. And I've been we're so starved for that,
Yeah. That's a lot of that is social isolation. I mean, today's world, it's like you have more people, but they're farther apart from each other than ever before. In a weird way, we're closer, but we're also farther apart. And a lot of that is technology and the way that our society is structured. We don't have that natural closeness that our ancestors did. And I think that, that, and then the pace of the world and the abstractness of it, right? I mean, there are things, again, going back to like your tribe, right? Like, the kind of things that would save them or kill them were things that they could touch and see, and like, they were immediately there. With us, the kind of things that can like make or destroy your life are like mathematical abstractions, right? Like, it's a different world. And so I think a lot of it is just like sticking together and helping other people.
Yeah, in-person meetups, I think, is important, to be around other people's hearts, their electromagnetic field, to be in those presence, like, especially now, now more than ever, of like being able to meet up and be in each other's field and share. So I think meetups are important. And if you're in LA in April, come meet up with me. Come to the alien
I don't
event.
know. Wait a minute. Are you gonna?
Dude, there's an alien event, an AI event, a biomed expo. There's gonna be speed dating, ecstatic dancing. There's a banquet every night. Like, but it's just the gathering of everybody and meeting like-minded individuals and dancing and laughing and sharing. Because a lot of the times too, especially if you're here watching this, you can't have open, vulnerable conversation with everyone. You have to kind of guard what you're passionate about, what you've learned, or else it will piss people off or start a fight or whatever. So then you're wearing different masks, where it's like, I can't talk about this to my coworkers or my neighbors because of these beliefs or this or that rift it will create. So to be able to meet people that's like, oh yeah, man, I'm all caught up on that, and you can really share, that's important.
I was like, on the one hand, meeting is sharing, but then on the other hand, colon cleanse. And so I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I don't like, LA sounds good, but how bad do I want to meet and share?
Time and place.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just so important. I hate that I have to bring that up. No, I don't hate it. I hate how non-receptive people are to that message.
I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you.
I'm like, that's not you talking. That's just your parasites. I don't take any offense, Tim. It's not you. It's just your parasites. The parasites are resisting. They like it in there. Ugh.
Fasting is also a major.
Oh, absolutely.
Parasites.
Yeah, well, when it's willing, yes, and you can control your fasting. A lot of people are just hungry right now. That's not good. Fasting is different than just being hungry.
starving and
I've
fasting, two
found
different things.
sometimes I'm trying to fast a couple of times a month. I'll just take like a day and not eat. I'll just drink, liquids, but not eat. And it like for me at least, it runs kind of hot and cold. Like I've had a couple of times where I'll just like I won't eat from the night before and I'll go to bed and I'll just feel incredible the entire day. I just have like energy and my body feels like normalized and all that. And then there are other times where I just feel tired and hungry, right? Which is kind of like I don't know. Maybe I'm missing some secret there, but
Everybody's built differently and needs a case by case diet, and everybody needs to investigate their own needs, whether it be a calorie surplus or a deficit or whatever you're doing. You need to tailor fit your diet.
You could even get tests where it'll test your DNA and show you things to eat and not to eat. Like,
what is that? What is it?
I forget the name of the test. Oh God.
That's what I'm seeking out at the I'm like trying to get a blood test or something to see.
You guys. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to say too. What's so crazy about Western medicine, and I wanted to let you guys know this, is because just in case somebody's like goes to their doctor, but when you go to your doctor and you request like I want to be tested for parasites, how they will literally talk you out of it, and then how they won't even test for all of it. Like sometimes they'll just test for H. pylori and like this, and that. How pushy you have to be to even get that. And then they won't even test you for everything. And then, but now there's these at-home kits you can do at home that will test you for candida, all the different parasites. And, I highly recommend that. And they give you the results and then you can treat it accordingly. And so then you go to your if you needed to go to your doctor for a particular treat, depending on what type you have or whatever, and then show them a copy of the result.
The more information you can bring them, the better.
Right.
Sounds good to me. Get all those worms out you.
Get your serotonin back and your hormones balanced, you guys. It's really just taking control of your life and wanting to be happier, and your focus. It messes with your focus. Where some people will feel like they have ADHD when it wasn't that. It was due to the parasites. So everything you're after, mental clarity and feeling good and energetic, I'm telling you, I recommend it. I'm going to stop ranting because I do get like Randy Savage on it. I'm like, did somebody say parasites? You got to get your parasites out of you.
Because they resist.
Yeah, you have a professional wrestling voice.
You gotta get like a warrior and eradicate them from your gut and intestines. Don't step into a Slim Jim. Become the Slim Jim.
Okay, so that's heavy duty. That is heavy duty.
Some good stuff.
Yeah, my advice is be nice to people, and the vitamin D3. And the reason that I mentioned that is, I read a big study that said that anybody north of Atlanta basically is not getting enough vitamin D from sunlight for something like 6 months out of the year. So most of us are I mean, if you live in North America, odds are you're probably on the low side of the spectrum for D, unless you're supplementing it. Now, it is in a lot of vitamins, right? So you could be getting it in some normal supplement, but for me, I guess apparently I wasn't getting enough, and when I started taking it, I quit getting sick. So. But COVID doesn't count because I got the vaccinations for that. I know. Look at that. Look at those eyes. Look at those eyes. That's funny. Because you guys are anti-vax. I know so many people who are anti-vaxxers. I'm on the other side of the spectrum.
I'm pro-choice. Whatever people's choice is good for them.
I'm pro-choice too.
Don't impose it upon everybody. Whatever you want to do, cool.
If you skip your vaccine, send it to me and I'll take it. I'll run them up both arms, down the legs.
Oh, Sam, don't do that. Don't go full mutant on us.
That's
who knows?
Guinea pig. It is.
Right? It's no worse than me drinking heavy metals. So,
wait, Bernie, what type of D3 did you just show?
It's like a liquid one. It's 1,000 ICU per milliliter.
Only 1,000. Now you gotta step
milliliter
up. Pump them up.
Yeah, that is weak, right? You're supposed to do 10,000. Of which, as a Canadian and coming out of winter, probably need a little bit more right now.
Oh yeah, for
Especially
sure.
in nocturnal.
Oh, and Canada. Yeah, there you go.
My girlfriend is watching this. Ooh, look, my girlfriend says she's watching it.
Hey,
Tim's girl.
See?
You make him smile. It's good.
I joke that I don't have a girlfriend, but I have a girlfriend. I have a girlfriend now. Although after this show, I may not
all
have
of
a
a sudden
girlfriend
after
again.
the show, yeah, you might. That's how it works. Story of my life.
Yeah.
Wish you had something. Yeah.
Thoughts on why some of my monoatomic gold turns purple? Straight
Oxidation.
purple. No. When it's oxidized, it goes blue. This was
impurities, probably impurities in the water or minerals in the water.
It was pure white, and then I left it out in the sun. Sorry, I should have stated that it was. I left it out in the sun, and then it turned purple after several days of being in the sun. And so here's the crucial part. Another key part is that this was made the same batch. This one stayed white, never went outside. It was in my fridge the whole time. This one went outside, turned purple. This was last year that I made these, and I rinsed the salt water out 9 times, and then I probably drank the water out of them, emptying them, refilling them with my tap water a couple hundred times each now. So one stayed white, one stayed purple after being in the sun.
Tap water?
What about impurities from the cap?
Canadian tap water.
No. The tap, or the cap on the bottle, the top, the cap.
Oh, exact same caps and no rust, nothing.
Get all those variables the same. That's right.
You should get a distiller. You should distill the water, right?
Yes. Should filter it and then distill it and then remineralize it. Some filters and the distillation process takes out all of the minerals, good and bad. So you have to put the good ones back in that you want.
Have you guys ever heard of the charged water? They were selling that at Tesla Tech. Jason, you went to Tesla Tech a few times, right?
Oh yes, but you gotta be wary of people making claims of charged water. Water cannot be charged, but bubbles in the water can be charged.
Wait.
So this was.
Wait a second.
This was a company. This was years ago, but they put. Maybe it was the bubbles. I don't know. Static. Somehow they were putting a static charge in the water. You would pop the cap and you get a shock. And they said that the
Wayback water.
Maybe.
Is that Dan Nelson's Wayback water, maybe, or Nantes water, Nantes. It's a French water.
You'd get a little static charge shock when you put it up to your mouth.
Yes, I have heard of that.
Yeah.
Oh, you just reminded me one last thing I got to show. I will be right back.
That's the surface.
Did you drink it, Tim? Did you try it?
I think I did. It didn't do much for me.
Did it quench your thirst? At least.
It didn't even do that. Damn it! No, I mean it was. Yeah, it was water. It was. I just remember that it was like the big fad that year. They're like, look, and everybody would be like, "Ow, that's amazing!"
I probably did it as well. I don't even remember.
Yeah, they have their fad stuff, and then they have some of those devices. What was it? Somebody showed one in APAC where he had like a crystal laser with these big arms with crystals that were pointing at people.
What?
It was one of their medical.
Much. Did it work?
It's interesting. I like your chi, your chi, your mana, your prana, your energy. We use the same exact measurement to determine your electrical charge as we do to determine your hydration, because it's the water in your body that actually conducts all of that hydroelectric voltage of chi through your body. So they use a test called the phase angle test, which determines your level of hydration. So it's actually a measurement of like the cellular voltage of your cell membrane. So you could do that, but like how most of us are actually dehydrated, and that, and then the nutrients, you're not able to absorb the nutrients because of that. So you could take certain, it's not going to absorb right, but
yeah,
that's fascinating.
Water with microclusters and stuff that will absorb faster than tap water. don't drink tap water, please. Like the water boy. What water boy? You got to have some clean water. Get that.
Bobby Boucher.
That's right, Bobby. That's right.
Wait, is that that's an ice cube? Is that an ice cube? What is that, Bernie?
Quartz?
Yes, it is an ice cube.
It is an ice cube because it slipped out of his hand.
The bubbles freeze in these field lines with exclusion zones.
Oh, that is cool. So it's like you're freezing.
That is the gold silver water frozen, and it makes these exclusion zone bubble fields in the ice every time.
Is the ice cube magnetic? That would be awesome if it was like magnetic until it thaws.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Oh, question: If you guys are gonna stick around in the show afterwards, or are all you guys hopping off?
I'm down to chill for a bit. I guess we're at that 2-hour mark.
Okay, because I know someone that wants to hop in if we are. So
that's right.
Wait, who? Oh, okay. Dun dun dun.
That's it from the top.
Brando. Yes, it's got electrolytes. That's where the nano bubbles.
Now I'm looking at the chat.
Yes.
Bob said he's telepathic.
Me too. Hashtag me too.
Yeah. I knew you would say that. Sorry, it's bad joke.
All right, I guess we're doing a little after party, but before we end it, what you guys got to shill? We got to promote APEC. We got to promote Tim Ventura interviews, Julia Kamman channel, and Jason's Twitter, I guess, or everybody needs to email YouTube and tell them to give him back his channels.
Yeah.
The reverbs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate
this was nice.
Always a pleasure.
Just be relaxing and again, just like lift people up, just take care of the people around you. That's the big thing.
Thank you.
Because it's literal physics as well as metaphysics of the law of attraction, the law of one, but it's inertia. The more you build, the bigger it is. The more force behind it, the inertia going, right? It keeps it going.
I'm not saying that I'm good at it. I'm not making any claims to be good at any of this stuff.
Sounds good to me.
I'm trying, right? I'm trying. It's like, one day at a time. Basically, it's like a big AA meeting now or something.
That's right.
Okay, last little bonus before we end it. I wanted to get all of your opinion on this. Real or fake, the overbalanced wheel?
You guys, I'm still going to be in the show. I'm just turning off my camera. I'll see you after.
Every video by the Visual Education Project is for visual education purposes only. They have a disclaimer on their website saying that they all have hidden motors, hidden batteries, camera trickery, all of them. That's the visual education. Yeah, they have a disclaimer that says we do these videos to show the impossibility of perpetual motion machines. And then people take those videos and re-upload them thinking that they are for real. And no,
good to know.
I've spoken with that guy before. He's a good dude. Yeah. Sorry, Visual VE Project, awesome videos, but none of them are legit. What you
proving the impossibility of it.
And Jason destroyed the Graviflyer for me a while ago.
People call me a wet blanket because I put a damper on things.
Sorry. It's okay. You know what?
Sorry, not sorry. Yeah.
I have all night to cry, man. I have all night to cry.
I want to live the truth, even if it's eating like oatmeal in the desert of the real. I'd rather do that than eat steaks with Agent Smith. Whatever.
I feel that. And you pointed out some crucial parts of it. And is that why, the APEC team has not yet been able to replicate it? Is because, there's no strings, but who knows? Hopefully there's a breakthrough and it does lift off.
I hope so.
Exactly.
I'll always
well, Jason, thank you for sharing about the Searle effect generator with everybody.
Absolutely.
I mean, again,
we'll do some more.
It has tremendous even for people who are like, this is BS, it'll never work, it has incredible cultural value. It is a cornerstone of this community, right? And so it's valuable for that, if nothing else. That's
so what there's 4 options. You try something, you don't try, something is true and something is not true. So you can, just by trying something, you can benefit people, whether it's true or not. And if you don't try and something is true, then you lose everything and you gain nothing.
Yeah,
So it's just better to just try than not.
And so I guess next time I'm happy to put the Hutchison effect stuff up too. So
absolutely, we'll definitely have to plan. I'll email him as well, and maybe if you want to reach out to Tim, and we'll try to do an episode with John with all of your work, if possible. Who knows? Even if we can't get him, everything that you documented, like, because we were talking pre-show, you went up and visited his lab in Vancouver, which was like the original OG lab, and took like hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures of all of his samples and all of it.
yeah. And I mean, I'm absolutely convinced that the effect that they had was real. People have accused him of all sorts of trickery and hoaxery and things like that, but I know him. I know you guys know George Hathaway, right? Even if you don't trust John, George Hathaway is incredibly, he is a straightforward, honest, trustworthy person. He always has been. That's his personality, and so he was doing the footage. He's one of the guys who took the footage with John. They were working together. John Alexander, Colonel John Alexander, everybody knows him. He went with a team and investigated. He's completely believes in John's work. It does not mean that it's understood or fully understood, right? Being legit does not mean that they have it completely figured out. So
exactly. And Bob Greenyer as well, another epic, amazing mind and force verifying, working with Hutchinson's samples and the EVOs and all of it.
And Bob's stuff as well. And then Bob's stuff is based originally on Ken Shoulders, and Ken Shoulders had like this incredible reputation, so.
And lastly, I just point out the pictures I have up right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Verbs, these were supposed pictures taken by the BBC back in the day of...
No, that was taken around 1968 by a press photographer named John Hocknell. And he wanted to have John Searle put his little model on strings and take those pictures for the newspaper. John was apprehensive about it, but the press photographer convinced him to do that. And everybody thinks those are actual flying images of the device. No, they are not. It is, that's a little model that you can put on your desk, and it was put in the foreground, and John was in the background to make it look like
photo manipulation trickery. And
John never claimed that was a real photo. People claimed that was a real photo. John never said that was a real photo. He always said, no, that was just a press photographer.
For sure. And that there was, though, BBC footage supposedly of one of his things, the one that flew off or something like that.
Yes. The BBC, he said that the BBC claimed to have footage of him doing weekly updates for over a year at local access television in Britain at that time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that stuff does not
available now.
It's on like 8mm of reels of film. And it's not digital. It's not like they have an archive of internet history of that. So it's like, good luck finding it. So
it could be buried. It could be, and as an example of that,
see on strings there now.
So the 2003 MITRE High Frequency Gravitational Wave Conference with Paul Murad, Bob Baker, a lot of the heavyweights of that kind of physics, anti-gravity, Poglavov type community, right? The gravity wave guys. They all came together in 2003 for the MITRE HFGW conference, which was, I don't know, I think that's a building that it's actually like a CIA building or something like that. And the big joke there was, they literally, their conference was in a room with like a big one-way mirror on the wall. I'm serious. I'm absolutely serious. And so Paul and I tried to track down that footage because MITRE shot a copy of the footage.
Yeah.
And I ended up talking to like 6 different librarians, going through their stuff, and finally they're like, you know what, based on the time and the event and all that, they're like, we think that we threw it away. We think it's just gone. It got destroyed.
What?
Just because it was, I mean, this was, I mean, at the time, 2003, it was like they had like a 10-year data retention for this and that, and the whole 9 yards.
That's what happens. Like John Searle was forced to throw away a lot of his things because he had to move. He had no storage, no money to house it, so he just threw a lot of stuff away.
It
happens with John Hutchinson. Same
it
story.
happens. Science gets lost. Ideas, history, it gets lost. People don't realize that. They think
the
that
Library of Alexandria, and they have forced to throw their own stuff away. It's disgusting. There's a lack of money and support. We have all these money going to these projects of wild goose chases and stuff. I'm like, I'm bitter about that. Very.
And then another thing that happens is even if it doesn't get thrown away, it gets lost by. So when I was in college, I remember going to the Western Washington University Library, right? Because I grew up near that one, and their engineering library at the time, they had this book on Tesla from the 1960s. And it had had detailed values from his experiments with transmitting electricity into the air and ground simultaneously, right? And it was lightning stuff. It was his experiments with lightning. And the thing that got me about it was this was one of those, it was a textbook from like 1962, and the data itself was from way back when. It may exist in other form elsewhere, but that is like completely lost now because how many textbooks have been published before or since? Like thousands, millions get published every year. So maybe it's in the Library of Congress, but good luck finding it.
There. Maybe there.
If you knew
or underneath the Vatican or something. Yeah,
that is a place we need to go. But I think also Julia has the tools to get in there currently, from what I've heard.
She'll be back.
Just thinking she'll break in. The Pope gets a colon cleanse.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody needs one. No,
Julia actually has a story of
the parasites
being there with the Pope or something, being at the Vatican as a kid or something. It's quite the story. We'll have to talk about next time.
Exactly. We'll have another episode on that one.
Oh, definitely. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Julia, and thank you to all the chats. Much love.
Have a great evening, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Listens to. Thank you.
Ta-ta.